wondered how students can balance running startups, leading clubs, and still ace product management internships at top companies?
In this Lorong product episode, we're going to dive into their journeys as PMs, student entrepreneurs, and leaders. Plus, stick around for a fun game where we'll find out their hot takes about product culture and startup life.
I'm Nicole, this is Denise, and we'll be your host for today.
So joining us is Jack, president of NUS Product Club and founder of OpenMentor.AI, a platform that's already helping over 2,500 students with mentorship. And alongside him, we have Yi Hao, the club's vice president and co-founder of GamifiEd, an edtech social enterprise gamifying STEAM education in Southeast Asia. So you guys may introduce yourselves.
I think thank you, Nico and Denise, for the warm introduction. I think that actually summarizes me like NUS Product Club president as well as a founder of OpenMentor, which is basically is the largest student mentorship community in Singapore. So, is there anything else I want to introduce myself? Actually, not really, but I would love to share more about my experience as a product manager, as well as how I get benefited from Product Club and why eventually I decided to take on the leadership role, and how is the future going to lies ahead with me and Yi Hao both going to NOC Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I think it's a great introduction by the host already. So I'm coming in as a vice president of NUS Product Club with a social enterprise called GamifiEd, which is trying to gamify STEAM education across Southeast Asia. So perhaps I'll also be sharing my experiences in before coming to Product Club, and also how those experiences tie into why I eventually wanted to lead Product Club as vice president, as well as continue my startup ventures and share more about them in detail.
Maybe we could start with learning more about your interest in PM and why. So what first drew you guys into product management?
Okay, this is a very interesting question. So I have to say that before coming into Product Club, I actually know nothing about product management. But what drew me into product management is mainly because of my experience with starting startups and realizing that actually I like to deal with a myriad of things ranging from technical to businesses, as well as to talk to people. So I guess product management is at the intersection of these three different domains, and that's why it drew me onto the Product Club. And this is also the reason why I am drawn into Product Club, to actually take on a leadership role to understand how product management works at the very granular level, and also to actually use my leadership skills to run the club and to execute some of the plans that I have for the club as well.
Very interesting, very interesting. I mean, what about you, Jack?
So for me, I personally just enjoy like talking to people, and I feel like very technical things can get quite boring sometimes if you're just like sitting there coding the whole day. I mean, we come from school of computing, right? And I enjoy like having genuine conversation with people, like to get things done by involving multiple parties. So I think that what draws me into product management.
I think that suits you. I mean, that's why you also started to try out more product management stuff at Product Club, right?
Right.
So maybe let's talk about like your experience with Product Club. So like about how you became president. So I know your first encounter with Product Club was in 2023 when you interviewed for the industrial attachment program. So maybe let's talk about your experience with Product Club from there.
Right. Actually, before that, I think Product Club low-key changed my life a little bit, because I first went for this fireside chat sessions. I think it was with the Ninja Bank guy.
Yes.
So there was a Product Club sharing session. I was there, and I met a few seniors from Product Club. One of them is Marcus. So he told me a lot about product management. He told me about NOC, year one NOC Vietnam. I think then I applied for that. It kind of changed my life quite a fair bit. Then afterwards, then I wanted to work at a startup. Then I saw Product Club. They have this like industrial attachment. Then I applied for it, worked for a pre-seed startup. It's called Hypotics. And the alumni is also, as in the founder is also a student who just graduated, and they are NOC SV alumni. So they kind of further motivated me to apply for NOC Silicon Valley, where I eventually got the offer. I think Product Club really provides a lot of opportunities with all the events which are mostly like public facing, and a lot of the chances that I think it really quite a fair bit, like it changed my career direction and my interest quite a fair bit. Yeah.
I think it's great to hear that Product Club basically changed your life then. Maybe to find out more from Yi Hao, I mean, we understand you've been an ambassador for NUS Enterprise and also at this private club. So how do you feel like these exposures, push you towards product and entrepreneurship, and then eventually like NUSPC as well?
I guess my experience with being an ambassador for NUS Enterprise, as well as being involved in NUS Product Club, you can think of them as stepping stones into having having gone into the vice president role for NUS Product Club. So I would actually say that for NUS Enterprise, it's basically just a place where they are just trying to like grow the next generation of startups, and they're just trying to find out who has this potential to actually become the next billion-dollar industry. I guess being an ambassador for them really teaches me about the inner workings of how NUS Enterprise treats startups and how the support they essentially gave to startups. Also, being an NUS Product Club essentially is a club where we learn how startup works fundamentally, and also with the pitching sessions that I gain and also exposed to every single week, it actually fostered my confidence to actually talk to people, which are one of the crucial skills of being a product manager, and that's how it propelled me to actually finally land a role at like being a vice president for NUS Product Club.
I see.
Okay. I mean, aside from that, both of you guys are also computing students, right? Currently in year 3. So is there any like particular reason why you all decide to become like product managers or like have interest in this field rather than maybe like compared to the more typical roles like being a software engineer?
Yeah, I think that was like what I've mentioned earlier on, because I find like I enjoy like I'm quite an extrovert person. I enjoy like dealing with people, managing like human relationships, all this, and I think especially I'm very, very interested in business perspective of things. That's why I choose business analytics instead of computer science. Business analytics, like when I choose it, is because it's a combination of business and computing, right? And I think the role that fits perfectly for this is actually product manager, right? Because you do like a have to be really like a technical in a certain perspective. You need to have the technical knowledge. Then at the same time, you're always dealing with like product, think about the features, what to implement. Yeah, and I think whenever I build something from 0 to 1, it excites me a lot for the journey.
I think I can really relate to what Jack is saying over here, especially his statement about building from 0 to 1, which I feel like is really what I adhere to, because I've also experienced in like creating technical products from 0 to 1 from scratch as well. And also why my interest in product management over like very technical roles like software development or like even like backend engineer, for example, is that I don't see myself coding all the time into the future, because coding itself is a very strenuous thing and it really requires a lot of attention. Whereas for product management, you actually get to have a taste between like talking to customers and understanding the customer's pain point, and also giving like the overall big idea and architecture for what features to implement. I think that really strikes a very good dynamic between like a technical role as well as probably more of a business side of things, which led me to my interest in product management.
Okay, I see. I mean, since you guys talked a lot about how product management is the balance between the business side of things and also the technical side, so what do you think are like qualities or skills that you need to succeed as a PM?
That's a really good question. So I have to say that I don't really have a very professional experience in product management, but I do have an interest in like pursuing product management careers into the future. And also from my experience as being a startup founder, I think product management is simply about being able to collaborate with different teams, particularly with the technical side of things, the business side of things, as well as understanding the customer's pain point from the start. So we are not looking at perhaps product managers are not the one implementing or writing code directly, but that are the ones that are giving the overall architecture of what products to implement so that it actually solves a real business need, and also making sure that it actually solves a real user problem as well.
Right. I think product manager is really not an easy way out. I think a lot of people have this misconception that because coding is so tough, and I think product manager just need to yap and that's how you get things done, and that's an easy way out. But actually in reality, that product manager role, majority of the roles are actually not meant for like fresh graduates for most of the companies. Most companies don't really have a junior product manager. It's usually the software engineer, they pivoted halfway through, they become the team lead, then they become a product manager because they are managing the entire life cycle of a product. For a very simple reason, because you need to know enough technical knowledge in order to basically write the product requirement document, talk to the engineer, know what exactly does the engineer want. So I think there are mainly 3 qualities to be a good product manager. So firstly, I think you really need to have the domain knowledge of the specific product you're owning. So previously, I have worked as a robotics product manager in the robotic company. So I think you do fairly need a fair bit of like the robotic kind of stuff, how the system works, etc. So our CPO, our Chief Product Officer, is actually used to be he won a lot of Olympic gold and represented Singapore for robotic competition, etc. Yeah, so he has that domain knowledge. Then I was afterwards, I worked at Binance as a product manager for the derivative trading side of things. So it actually involves a lot of crypto, a lot of quant knowledge, as well as how trading works in the exchange perspective. So I think first of all, the domain knowledge is very important. Yeah. Then second of all, that you need to really know how to manage human expectation and how to handle this human relationship, because you're working with so many people, and it's very hard to get things done sometimes because everyone has their own priorities, right? So I think very important to how to not piss people off, by the same time to get things done. Yeah, so I think this is a very, very like hard skills, to be very honest, because people are pushing the deadlines away, the dev, and your boss is asking the deadline to be as early as possible. How can you balance different stakeholders' needs, right? That's what they always say. Yeah, I think then lastly, what's really important, I think you really need to be I think you really have to be like a very, very all-rounder technical in both like talking to people and the technical products, that you have to, at least for me, my experience, most of the product manager, you need to know the coding side of things, that you need to know exactly how the whole product life cycle is like.
I see. So I feel like it's a good balance between knowing how to speak with people as well as like what you guys mentioned, the domain knowledge, knowing about the product itself.
So both of you guys didn't just stop at like PM internships or like student clubs. You actually went ahead to build your own startups, right? So maybe for Jack, you have started OpenMentor.AI and it has grown to over 2,500 users. So what kind of sparked the idea of this? How did it start?
Right. I think it should maybe trace back a bit more to 1 year ago. I built my first startup, which is a gig space, right? So I built a freelancer event marketplace, so where we connect like event freelancers like photographer, musicians with the so-called the clients. Yeah. So when I was building that product, I think so we are selling it to the corporate clients where they basically able to book all this as a package. But there was once basically that these freelancers, they are turned up late, and I got scolded by a lot of people, like the other freelancers who are lining up as well as the client. So I was like determined I need to build something and I'm able to make money while sleeping. Yeah, so eventually we sold the gig space to a media agency that's in the Southeast Asia region, and I decided to go to my next venture. Then I was like thinking like, what's the most like so-called the most problem that all the students are facing, because I myself is a student, right? So I realized that after asking around, like 99% of the time, people are always talking about internship, right, and career. Yeah, so I was thinking, is there some way I can do to solve this problem? So, and now I thought one like more straightforward way is I use mentorship, kind of student mentor and junior and all the freshies, able to get help from them. Then at the same time, we are able to partner with companies to get like a recruitment done on this talent pool of people, which is basically quite a straightforward role where we kind of connect like 3 parties together inside one platform. So now we are still focusing mainly on the student space, so we're trying to grow it. So currently we have 2,500 users, and we host a lot of career events. We have partnered with more than 30 different community partners, and we also partner with quite a few companies as well. Managed to do quite a few hiring for them. Yeah, so yeah, we will see how these things are going ahead.
And for you, Yi Hao, I mean, we understand that you have your own startup, GamifiEd. So you're trying to gamify STEAM education. How did this idea come about for you, and what gap were you seeing in the market?
Yeah, so it's actually GamifiEd was a startup idea that I founded 2 years back. So I think it's in 2023. Yeah, so that was an idea that was born out of a ASEAN undergraduate symposium held collaboratively by NUS College together with Temasek Foundation. So basically, just a brief roundup of whatever was happening in the symposium, so that you can like understand how the nature of this so-called startathon works, is that this symposium actually gathers undergraduates across ASEAN and then come together and solve prominent social issues relating to inequity, relating to let's say culture as well as environment. So basically, GamifiEd was basically a card game that our group founded specifically to solve the problem that Filipinos, the youth in the Philippines, are not able to appreciate agriculture as a possible career pathway. So we decided that we have to target the root problem, which is that when they were young, they were told off by their parents or even by their seniors that agriculture is just a bad pathway. You will just get into a farmer role, you just every day just toil at the plot lands and whatever, sweat all the time. But it's not actually true, because we realized that there's a lot of misconception around agricultural roles. That's why we decided to create a card game to target Filipino youths, so that they could understand how a day in the life of a person working in agriculture essentially feels like. So the roles are actually a lot more than farmers. They can be like soil engineers or whatever. A lot of roles are actually in the agricultural sector. So yeah, that's basically the experience that we had with GamifiEd, and we actually conducted a series of 6 workshops across 1 week in Philippines, partnering with local schools as well as NGOs to host the workshops to actually allow those kids to play our games. And the feedback that we got was very impressive, because all of them wanted to buy the card sets, but at that point of time we didn't actually release for purchase yet. We didn't actually publish them for purchase. Right now it's still ongoing, but taking a slower pace as our team members are out across ASEAN. So we are also trying to see opportunities to collaborate with more NGOs and to host a bigger workshop to benefit more people.
I think it must have been hard to kind of validate the ideas that you guys have, considering y'all don't have big budgets or a full tech team, right? So maybe how did you guys approach this problem?
So to me, I think Open Mentor is mainly we are dealing with 3 parties that we have to validate each of them in a different perspective, right? So for the juniors, the freshies, they are most looking for internship. I think this and mentorship as well as internship, right? I think this is very obvious. So there are quite a few public channels, and I do answer a lot of the people's question very actively on the public Telegram channels. And I realized a lot of people private PM me afterwards for follow-ups things, or people who don't dare to ask in public, they just ask me for more advice. Or I'm a teaching assistant for quite a few months. Every time people are always coming to me, and the juniors always ask me, do you have any referrals or any advice for career? So I think for the freshie part, it's quite easily validated that everyone needs to find an internship these days, right? Then so the second part is the seniors, right? So the seniors are the year 3, year 4s, or even fresh grade. What do they have? How can we validate these people, right? So what I do with them, so there are 2 ways we validate. First one is we try to host a very high basically all the very highly created network kind of networking event with all the seniors who have landed a job, or they kind of looking for the next job, right? So we realize that the turnout rate is super high. Yeah, so people are very interested to network with the people with the same wavelength. Yeah, so I think this is one thing we draw them come in, because with a highly created networking event for the seniors. Next, we posted a few stories about a few companies a job that to see if anyone interested in this fresh grad, some jobs by some of the companies, and realize that we get quite a fair bit of Instagram DMs. People are interested for referrals for basically this, and they're still looking for jobs essentially, although they have done multiple internships, right? So then lastly, with the companies is the HR, right? So I talked to HR so how it actually got inspired is after I left my previous company, which is a top fintech firm, then the HR keep asking me for a referral for a next candidate to replace me, right? So then I was very confused. I thought it should be a very easy job done, right? But he told me that a lot of times that on resume and LinkedIn, they can't really see a lot of the information, and they kind of waste a lot of time. For example, they need Singaporean, they need someone who speaks fluent Chinese with a domain knowledge. Let's say in the crypto industry, right? Finding someone who can speak fluent Chinese doesn't mean you just put in your resume fluent in Chinese and English. You actually need to know what it's React front end, back end in Chinese. And I think that 90% of people can't do that. And next, that they need to know the crypto knowledge. I don't think anyone put on LinkedIn or resume crypto enthusiast or domain knowledge in crypto. I don't think people put that generally, right? So that's another thing that basically recruiters spend a lot of time and waste their energy on. Yeah, so they actually, especially in the crypto field, I think they do require a lot of the talents. And I also get to know from the big tech firms that they get thousands over resumes, and usually only that 1% make it to the interview round. So I think a lot of the resources and time were wasted and spent not very efficiently. So we thought that we could bridge some gap in one way or another, but we're still still validating along the way. Yeah.
I guess for GamifiEd, it's not as perhaps not as complex as what OpenMentor is doing, because Jack essentially has three different sectors to validate. So for us, for GamifiEd, it's actually a card game, like I mentioned earlier, right? So it's essentially the validation just happens whether there is truly a misconception and whether parents or even children are willing to play the game or not. But I think this validation wasn't that much of, because it's based in the Philippines, there's always this problem of how am I supposed to validate it when I'm in Singapore? I'm not physically there. So actually most of the validation is done by my teammate in the Philippines, who actually conducted the workshops. So I guess one of the most efficient validation is just essentially to host a workshop, like what OpenMentor has also done, to just really gauge the amount of signups and the amount of feedback from the children themselves. In fact, we actually collected more than 95% of attendees who are willing to continue playing the game and also to purchase the card set essentially. So that was the validation that we did, and I guess there's not much more validation to do because essentially it solves the problem of the misconception.
I see. I mean, similarly, we just like to know how was it like trying to build credibility as student startup founders? Like, I'm sure that you guys have had many different experiences trying to navigate your stakeholders and also trying to meet business needs or even the people's needs.
That's a really good question. So I think this is also the question for a lot of like founders out there who are thinking that if I'm going to create my own startup, who is going to believe me? Who is going to trust what I'm doing is truly something that the person is actually committed to like doing and be responsible for all the consequences and whatever. I guess the credibility comes from being able to put in your utmost and to like really commit whatever you promise to do. And it's quite surprising that when you're collaborating with businesses, if you're a very young founder, let's say like 19 years old, I've seen founders like they are like 18 or 17 plus even, they actually trust and actually are very willing to support what ventures you are trying to do, essentially trying to offer perhaps mentorship advice, perhaps not financial assistance right away, perhaps not investing in whatever you're doing right away, but being a mentor. And that actually adds on to the credibility because you can essentially ask them to mentor you throughout the duration of whatever venture you're going for. And then you can use it as a stepping stone to go for further competitions. And these opportunities for competitions, startathons, hackathons are really abundant in, let's say, NUS context, in, let's say, university context. And that's another way to build your credibility, perhaps by emerging as one of the finalists of a startathon or wherever. And along the way, you get to see a lot of opportunities to build credibility by participating and obtaining achievements from these hackathons and also collecting mentors along the way. And also we have a lot of like supporting incubation programs in NUS as well. I think that's also another great way to build credibility. And I guess the opportunities are essentially out there. It's just whether you want to take it or not.
Right. I totally agree with what Yi Hao says. I think like school has provided us with a lot of opportunities, be like a enterprise incubation program. So I was previously awarded $10,000 from NUS Enterprise for the VIP grant. So I think it kind of built the credibility with, and we are like supported by NUS, right? So incubated by Hanger, Block 71. I think this opens up a lot of doors for us in one way. And also he mentioned about all these hackathons. So I used to be a very avid like hackathon participant. I've won like about 5 hackathons before, and I think I explored a lot of ideas there and made a lot of connections with the judges, with the seniors there, because usually hackathons have a lot of the panelists, the guests, the judge. So we do like connect with them very heavily, and we're able to like stay connected. They're able to offer us advice and bring us to like able to offer us more and network among their own circles as well. So I think from all this, as long as you put in the hard work and you show that you are sincere, you are trying to solve a real problem, you are not trying to scam or anything, I think that most of the people are still very supportive. Although they can be a bit skeptical because you are a student founder, right? Most of the people think that you have school, how are you going to juggle this, right? You don't have the experience, you don't have like this, don't have that. But I think as long as you put in the effort, people are eventually your effort will pay off, right? Yep.
I think you guys covered a lot of like pointers of why like being a student actually gives you guys kind of like an edge over like maybe other founders that may not be students now. So since we're talking about being students and like how NUS has supported you guys are both going on NOC, right, to Silicon Valley. So maybe we can discuss more about that. How are you guys feeling about the experience? What are your hopes and goals going into this?
Right. I think you raised up a really good point. That's another opportunity that NUS offered to us, right? Like NOC, Silicon Valley. I mean, I heard of this before I even come to university because I was too boring during NS days. I searched NUS computer science, and this YouTuber called Joel Wong, he documented his entire NOC Silicon Valley journey. And then there are also a lot of news about Carousel was the NOC Silicon Valley. I think also like quite a few startups as well. And I was just thinking that damn, like that's such an interesting experience that school send you overseas for 1 year to the United States in the heart of in the startup, like a hub, then to just learn, and you even get to learn some lessons from Stanford as well. Like what an opportunity lies, right? So I think I'm like very excited to learn from the US, to learn from like what's the people they are doing and how to like indulge yourself inside the startup culture. As much as like I would say that Singapore, that they put in a lot of support and initiative to try to grow the space, but it's still quite lacking compared to US, right? Like we are still like in the very early like development stage that I think people are still not very risk takers. Yeah, so I think that US can really maybe change our perspective quite a bit.
100% agree with what Jack has said. I do really want to build on the idea that actually whatever Singapore is doing and whatever Singapore is progressing towards an entrepreneurship space is indeed really deserves a credit from various universities as well as the governmental efforts. But it's also at the point that it will never, at least for now, reach the degree of being a Silicon Valley in Asia. And I think really being in Silicon Valley really teaches you and changes a lot of perspective. Anyway, you won't get to hear a lot of people saying AI B2B SaaS or whatever in NUS or anywhere, right? You won't hear about people discussing Tencent Sum or like annual recurring revenue or like monthly recurring revenue. That's not the things that you actually be exposed to in NUS unless you are in those very secluded groups, which also offer similar opportunities. But in Silicon Valley, you are really immersed into this very big space where building fast, iterating fast, and breaking things fast are the norm. And that's the spirit that I really like about Silicon Valley, being able to be brave to try out new ideas and not be scared about the consequences, because the nature of the environment is simply built for that. So in that respect, I'm actually very excited to actually go to Silicon Valley for my NOC exchange, a one-year exchange program, and together with Jack as well. Who knows what we'll build together? Yeah.
I mean, that's really great to hear. We're really excited for you guys as well. Then in that case, do you guys see NOC as more of like an extension of your product management journey or your entrepreneurship journey?
That's a really good question. So I guess right now I couldn't say, or like rather I couldn't decide whether it's more beneficial for product management or entrepreneurship, essentially, because to actually simply decide one right away from now is to simply constrain yourself within a box that you bring when you go into Silicon Valley, because it's just very, very different there. And I believe that you will not just gain product management skills, you will not just gain entrepreneurship skills, but you also gain the spirit of how Silicon Valley essentially works, the work ethics, the spirit of like building and breaking, the spirit of like being open, and the spirit of being collaborative. So there's a lot of things that I could think right away from the top of my mind right now. So I think the question that whether it will actually impact my journey with respect to PM or entrepreneurship, I mean, that's for sure, right? That's really for sure. But how or which one is more, that's really what I choose to do when I'm there. And that's really something that's not able to decide when I haven't go there yet. Yeah.
Right. To me, like it's mainly more, my end goal is essentially like to be a startup founder. So I think like a entrepreneurship journey, like entrepreneurial mindset is definitely the priority of everything. But I think product management skills are very transferable as a student founder or just a founder in general, right? Because essentially as a startup founder, you are dealing with everything, and it's like a product management, but it's a magnified version of it, right? So you might have get yourself hands-on on everything. So I think going to NOC Silicon Valley really to immerse yourself in a space, even though you are doing any role there, but because you're working in such a lean startup, technically you still get hands-on with a lot of stuff, and everyone can be a product manager of a very small feature or some small things that you own. I think it's more like the sense of ownership is like a very similar to like product management, and that's I think where like NOC Silicon Valley really come in, and yeah, I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's good. Hope you guys will enjoy NOC.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing with us your journeys from being students to running a product club as well as heading to Silicon Valley. So now let's go for a quick game where we'll get some of your unfiltered takes on product and startup culture.
Okay, so as you can see, this game is called Red Flag, Green Flag. We'll throw out a few hypothetical scenarios to you guys in the product or startup world, and then all you have to do is just raise a flag that you feel like you correspond with. Okay?
Okay.
So let's start.
Okay, first question. Prioritizing customer feedback over the team's original vision. Okay,
Wow.
3, 2, 1, go. Okay, let's start with the green flag first.
Okay.
Maybe why?
I think when you're building startup, like essentially you are trying to get your paying customer. You're trying to pivot and idea validate from the customers, not from your own team vision, right? So things can change very rapidly across the way, because initially that you wanted to build this, but you realize that customers are not paying for what you are building. Then what's the point, right? So I think getting the customer feedback, validating from them, eventually find out what they want is something that we should align our team, because at the end of the day, they are the one paying for our product. Our own team are not going to buy for it, right? Yeah. So that's why I think it's a green flag.
I think personally for me, right, we also have to consider the perspective of the team, because if you essentially has a strong team, right, then you wouldn't want to risk panning towards too much and prioritizing too much on customer feedback and sacrifice whatever the team want to achieve. And how I see this is that perhaps your team vision is actually solid, but the customer feedback that you gotten are perhaps I would say inaccurate because you didn't scope down to the correct customer segment. So, but also it's also valid what Jack has said, that we really have to find out the balance between these two. But for me, I think the team really is a priority for me. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing your very interesting opinions. The next question is, what are your thoughts on teams using ChatGPT for almost every process? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, green flags.
Wow,
Let's hear
agree,
from you
agree.
guys.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT is so useful nowadays, right? Like, why would you just reject using ChatGPT? I mean, ChatGPT is really outperforming a lot of coders, a lot of software engineers. I mean, if you have the capability to actually use ChatGPT and like create your own software, perhaps like fake software developer, AI software developer, you will just substitute the AI software developer with your team, right? And like the usage of AI and ChatGPT is so pervasive that it can simply be used in a lot of different stuff. And I think like using it in almost all processes is not the concern that we need to have, but rather how can we improve how we use ChatGPT in almost all of the processes so that we can maximize and build upon the capabilities of ChatGPT.
Right. I think that maybe not ChatGPT per se, just AI in general, yeah. Because ChatGPT is just really one of the few fundamental stuff that it can really that we use to even just like paraphrase all emails, paraphrase all text, whatever it is, when you ChatGPT to the more advanced version, like writing a product requirement document or using different AI tools for coding. I think AI really like boosts our productivity by a lot. Like if not, it's like way more than anyone can imagine. Previously, my first startup, our team took 3 months to build an MVP, and now we took like 1 day to release OpenMentor, which is like way faster. And I have to agree that it's not the perfect yet, but I think it's more than enough for the startup founders to build an MVP and you iterate and improve from there, right? Because what you need is quick validation to know whether the idea will work or fail. So I think it's something that it should be done. And I think recently, if I'm not wrong, Coinbase, like the CEO actually forced everyone to use like Cursor for basically one of the AI tools for their stuff. And I think there's a few people who are reportedly they are never used an AI tool and they got fired. If I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, that's an interesting news recently. Yeah.
Okay. Funny that you mentioned MVPs. So now we have question 3. Do you think Figma mockups are enough to be an MVP? 3, 2, 1. Okay, we have another fight. Okay, we can start with the green flag again.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I didn't really have much time to think about it, right? Yeah. Now I think about it again. I mean,
change?
my MVP is not really a Figma mockup lah. As in, it's usually a very functional, same old thing. But I think I consider a Figma mockup as something that's like a landing page. So it's like a landing page that basically we don't really have the full functional product yet. Actually, there's no login, nothing. It's literally just a wait list email, but you tell people what is your product about. So you kind of have the Figma mockup on like to have like describe your product in a very simple way and to see are people in demand for this. So an example I can think of, let's say we have literally we say that we put up a Figma mockup. We say we have like few thousand companies hiring and are students interested to sign up this. Actually, we don't have this 100,000 companies and we don't have this, we don't have that, but we just want to validate whether students want it, right? Then if we have a very quick Figma and people are able to all register or kind of like just email inquire us about like what's this about, I think that's like a successful MVP in a certain way to validate in a certain sense, I guess.
Okay, then what about you?
I think for me, Figma mockups are really not the MVPs because also like what we have said earlier, like it's so easy to create MVPs using current AI tools, right? So why would you need Figma mockups when you can just use the prompt, perhaps a very structured prompt and put it into like AI tools like Cloud Code and just generate a very quick MVP in like perhaps if you want a good one, perhaps 30 minutes to fine tune everything. Yeah, but Figma mockups really for me is like the bare minimum. It can be the skeleton, but definitely not a true MVP where there's like really all the features that you want to implement. Yeah.
Okay, then for our last question, we'll ask you guys, what do you think of free flow pantry snacks as a key incentive for staff? Okay, I think we can come to an agreement on this. You can raise your flags. Sorry. In 3, 2, 1. Red flag. Oh, I'm surprised. Okay, please share. Yeah, maybe you can start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think my philosophy has always been a team. So if you have a good team, you need to treat them well. I mean, you see the news, right? There's a poaching of talents, right? In like Meta, Zuckerberg poaching talents from like OpenAI. I mean, if you really have a very strong team and you already work very well with each other, I think that kind of relationship is really not being able to replicate very easily. And I think like snacks, providing free flow snacks is just the cheapest way to actually like win their hearts over. Like they can be hungry at times, they need some food to like perhaps one snack at a time to code out one line of code. That can be something that they can appreciate me for as a CEO. And then I think like that's the minimum I can do, honestly.
Keen to hear what Jack was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, as in, I don't see like how free pantry snack is a motivating factor. It just sounds like a very bare minimum kind of things that shouldn't even be bothered like mentioning about like like what you mentioned about Mark Zuckerberg like poaching people. I don't think he poached people with like free snacks, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean they poach people with like $100 million in front of their face, like with $1 billion, trying to like just slam the money in front of like the banks. Like I think that what actually motivates people around, be it startup team or whatever it is. If you tell me that company A offers me like maybe like a $5,000 salary with like free flow snacks versus company B that maybe offers me like a $20K without free flowing snacks, I don't think it's even a question for me to choose. Even there's like a $1,000 salary difference, I would still prioritize like company B. I think it has to be more realistic. But I think there's many other ways about how the relationship can come in, right? Like what he mentioned about how you treat your employees, your team with like hearts, all this, like how you build a strong relationship with the team. But I think snack is just a too bare minimum kind of thing that shouldn't be really much of a concern. Like especially in this like tech world, right? People are working from home. Like how like actually most of the time we don't even need like pantry, to be very honest. But nevertheless, I currently work at a company with like free like premium snacks and premium drinks. Let me count today. I drink like early in the morning is one coffee, then afterwards one green tea and one coconut water with 2 packets of chips. Yeah, so that's like on an average. I think it really motivates me a lot. More incentive for me to come to the company to a certain extent, but still very small extent, I guess.
If I can just add on, I think what Jack has said is just to have premium snacks and like higher salary essentially.
And coconut water.
Yeah, coconut water.
To wrap things up, let's ask like one final question. So is there a risk that you wish you had taken earlier?
Wow, I think that's really interesting and it's really a good question. I think taking risks is really something I personally quite a risk taker, and if there's any risk, what risk? Okay, how about you? How do you have anything? I go first.
I think I'm still thinking as well, but one thing I could think of perhaps less so of risk per se, but something I would really like to try, and maybe probably something that I would love to know way before like I come into uni is that, before uni I was studying in a junior college in Singapore, and I don't think that a lot of focus has been on crafting your own pathway towards achieving what you want. So the idea that is like very recurring in like junior colleges and polytechnics is just that you have to have a good career in the future, but rarely is startups or entrepreneurship emphasized, and rarely is perhaps communication skills and collaborative, and perhaps stepping out of your comfort zone to really present yourself to the outer world. These kind of aspects are not really emphasized, and I think this is something that's really a wasted opportunity, especially in Singapore where there's really a safe space for you to express yourself. So this kind of things is probably something that I would love to know way earlier before even coming to university, and perhaps I could start with a venture with my friends way earlier before I even came to university as well. So that's a risk that I really want to take.
I think I'm generally not someone who is like I don't make decision I regret or anything. So I don't think there's any. I probably took most of the calculated risks I have taken, and I don't regret any of the decision I make. But if there's one thing that rings my head, right, is about 2 years ago, my friend jio me a trip to go India actually. Yeah, so he asked me to go for a month's holiday trip to India. Like that's like very, very strange, right? Like I was like talking to my mom, I was keep thinking about it, whether it's safe or whatever. It's such an interesting city that I don't think any Singaporean or anyone here actually do visit that country before. But eventually I was like, never mind, it sounds a bit like not very, very safe for me, and it's probably not something very interesting to me then. But now I look back, right, like because we are always staying in such a comfortable position. We are inside like Singapore, we go like all the China or maybe like more advanced cities, Europe, right, for our holidays, and it kind of like narrow our perspective a lot on how the world actually works. Yeah, so I particularly got so-called ring a bell because my Binance CTO, previously he was talking to me about how crypto is going to change the world. And he said the only reason that you don't feel it so much is because you live in Singapore. Like the payment system, the technology is so advanced about everything. That's why you don't feel it. But in the countries like Brazil, in the other like third world cities, actually, the currency are depreciating so much, right? That crypto is actually changing their life to basically keep the currency afloat, and how the cross-border transactions are actually making things so much easier for them. So I think if you step out of your comfort zone, you try to discover opportunities in a different region, the different city, like I think there can be some more things that I can figure out that it's like a lack in the product. There's some market there, and there's a gap there that I have yet to identify, because I think Singapore is quite a constraint for this. Therefore, this year, I think for the past, after that, I missed out the India trip, I traveled for about 10 over countries for the past one year. Yeah.
I see. So you sort of made up for not going for the trip anyways.
Yeah, I still regret it.
I see. Well, that puts an end to today's episode. So thank you guys so much for coming on, and we really appreciated hearing about your insights as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise.
Thanks for coming to the end of this episode.
Click here to see more of our Lorong product episodes.